Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling Enneagram compatibility.
Oh, yeah.
And you know me.
I do.
Always got to go for the intriguing ones.
Of course.
So we're looking at two type 1s. The reformers.
That's right. And it can get pretty interesting.
Right, because it's not just romantic relationships. It's friendships, work, you name it.
Absolutely.
So picture this. Two people, super strong sense of right and wrong. Dedicated to fairness,
Yeah.
honesty, and, okay, maybe a little bit of a perfectionist streak.
That's our type 1 duo for sure.
And according to Personality NFT, when these two get together, it can be intense.
It really can. You get this potential for amazing connection, but also some serious clashes.
So let's break it down.
Sounds good.
First off, communication.
Yeah.
Type 1s are all about that direct approach.
No beating around the bush.
Exactly. Which on one hand,
Just sounds great.
right, no more misunderstandings. But then there's that perfectionism.
Oh, yeah, that's the catch.
Because if both are convinced they're right,
It can be tough to admit mistakes, to see another side.
so it's like this constant battle between being right
Mm-hmm.
and actually finding common ground.
It really is. It's a delicate balance. Like that quote from the article, we must learn to bend a little.
Oh, I remember that one.
That's a tough one for a type 1.
Yeah.
Flexibility, letting go a bit.
Yeah, not exactly their strong suit.
Not at first glance, but think about it. A type 1 couple planning their wedding.
Oh my God.
Every detail ethically sourced, perfectly aligned with their values.
That sounds stressful.
It could be. But on the flip side, that shared commitment, the doing things right, the loyalty,
But I think it's got to create a strong bond.
an incredible bond. They support each other through everything.
It's like that with friendships too, right?
Absolutely. That shared foundation of ethics, the honesty.
It's like they just get each other.
Instantly, they understand each other's motivations. Imagine them volunteering together,
I can see it.
always pushing each other to do more good in the world.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
But could that constant striving for betterment become too much pressure in a friendship?
It's possible. It's a fine line between encouragement.
And judgment.
Exactly. Even if it's well-intentioned, finding that balance is key.
So let's talk about the potential conflicts.
All right, let's do it.
The article mentioned a few, starting with rigidity.
Yeah, that can be a big one.
Because if two type 1s disagree on the right way to do something,
Oh, it can get intense. Neither one backs down easily.
compromise isn't exactly their forte, is it?
Not naturally. And then there's that self-criticism,
Oof, yeah.
which can definitely spill over into the relationship.
It's like constantly hearing, you could have done better.
Right. Even if it's meant to be helpful, it can be really disheartening.
It feels like you're never good enough.
Exactly. And the article also said that different principles
Oh, interesting.
can cause tension, even though both value ethics.
They might not always agree on the specifics.
Right. Leading to some pretty serious ideological clashes. And then, of course, there's change.
The dreaded C word.
For a type 1, it can be the worst. Everything planned out.
Routine set.
And then, bam, life throws a curveball.
So how do they handle that?
Well, the article said they lean on their strengths. The planning, the
Right.
problem solving. It's about regaining control.
So if both partners do that,
It can either create this super stable environment,
predictable.
or it can get super rigid.
Ah, I see.
It all depends on their willingness to adapt,
Yeah.
to go with the flow a little.
To bend without breaking.
Precisely.
Which, for a type 1,
It's a journey.
get
A
in.
journey of growth and self-discovery.
All right, enough of the serious stuff. Let's talk romance.
Woo! Getting spicy.
What happens when two type 1s start dating?
Well, think dedication. They plan everything meticulously,
Of course.
and they're looking for a partner who shares those high standards.
Sounds intense.
It can be,
Oui.
but there's also this intrigue to it.
Because of those shared ideals.
Yes, the passion for making the world a better place. That creates a strong connection.
Personality NFT said it can be surprisingly romantic.
It really can. It's not always fireworks and grand gestures.
More like a slow burn.
Yeah, exactly. It's about that deep respect, that intellectual connection
They just get each other.
on a soul level. But remember,
What's that?
long-term success depends on individual growth
Makes sense.
and a willingness to embrace each other's imperfections.
Because even the most dedicated reformer.
Has flaws.
Oh, absolutely. We all do.
It's about acknowledging those flaws in yourself and your partner.
That's how you build a healthy relationship.
Exactly. A relationship that lasts.
And that growth mindset, I feel like this pairing could really thrive there.
Oh, absolutely. They become each other's biggest cheerleaders.
Pushing each other to be better.
Setting goals, giving feedback, maybe even swapping self-help books.
It's like having a built-in accountability partner.
Exactly. And because they both value integrity so much,
There's this foundation of trust,
that's unshakable. They can face anything together.
knowing they have someone who gets it.
Who understands their values? Now, this might surprise you.
What's that?
The article mentions humor.
Humor. Really?
Yeah, I know. The reformer and humor, not exactly a classic combo.
Not the first thing that comes to mind.
But their worldview, constantly analyzing, trying to improve things.
I see.
It can lead to some witty observations about the world.
So it's like they see the absurdity of it all.
Exactly. And they can laugh about it together.
That's a side I wouldn't have expected.
It's there. But let's not get carried away. No pairing is perfect.
Right, we got to stay balanced.
The article highlighted both the good and the bad.
The strengths and the weaknesses.
Exactly. So we've talked about couples, but what about friendships?
Yeah, because that shared desire for goodness.
It can lead to amazing things.
Like what?
Imagine them organizing a community cleanup, launching a petition for a cause they believe in,
Or starting a book club
a very serious book club.
with lots of ethical debates.
Of course, and that honesty, that directness,
Creates a strong bond.
no hidden agendas, just pure connection.
But the article mentioned a downside too.
There's always a catch.
What's that?
Holding each other to such high standards.
Even in friendship.
You
It can
can
create
feel it.
pressure.
Like you're always being judged.
It can feel that way. So it's about finding that balance again.
Between support and pressure.
Yeah. Remembering that everyone's on their own journey.
Even the reformers.
Especially them. They need to be reminded to bend a little too.
To give each other space to be imperfect.
Exactly. To celebrate progress, not just perfection.
Speaking of imperfection, let's talk about those conflicts.
Oh boy, here we go.
The article didn't hold back.
No, it didn't. Because when two type 1s clash,
It's a battle of principles.
with neither one backing down,
And compromise. Forget about it.
it's not their strong suit. The article specifically mentioned rigidity.
As a major trigger.
Yeah. They're both so convinced of their right way,
But even small disagreements.
can escalate quickly.
Like what? Give me an example.
Deciding where to eat.
Oh, I can see it. One's vegan, the other loves this ethically sourced burger place.
And neither one wants to budge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the criticism.
Oof, that's a tough one.
It can really hurt, even if it's meant well.
Like constantly hearing, there's a more efficient way to do that.
Or have you thought about the ethical implications?
It would wear anyone down.
Even a type 1. And here's another interesting point.
I'm sinning.
Even though both prioritize ethics,
Their specific beliefs might differ.
yes, leading to these intense ideological debates. And then, of course,
That's that.
there's change, those big life
The
transitions.
ones that throw everything off balance.
Exactly. Moving, career shifts, starting a family.
How does a type 1 handle that?
They rely on their planning, their problem-solving skills.
So it's about regaining control.
Yes. Creating order out of chaos.
I can almost picture it. Color-coded spreadsheets, contingency plans.
That's our type 1. But here's the thing.
What's that?
That need for control can become rigidity.
So they need to learn to let go a bit.
To bend without breaking. Sometimes the best way to handle change,
Is to just go with it.
to trust the process, even if it means deviating from the plan.
That's a tough one for anyone.
But especially for a type 1, it takes practice.
And self-awareness.
Absolutely. So we've talked about change, but what about those really tough challenges?
Like a job loss, a health crisis.
Exactly. Those moments that shake you to your core.
How does a type 1 couple navigate that?
Their shared values become even more important.
It's like an anchor in the storm.
Precisely. They can lean on each other.
Knowing they're both trying to do the right thing,
And that shared sense of purpose.
it helps them stay grounded.
Absolutely. But even with all that strength,
There still be challenges.
the article mentioned one in particular,
What's that?
their self-criticism.
Oh, that can be a problem.
It can, especially in times of stress.
So instead of supporting each other,
They start nitpicking.
questioning each other's choices,
It's like that perfectionism turns inward.
creating even more tension.
Exactly. But there's a way to break that cycle
How's that?
by remembering to bend a little.
To be more compassionate.
Yes, to give themselves and each other grace.
To understand that there's no one right way to cope.
Everyone processes things differently.
And making mistakes.
Doesn't make you a bad person.
It's part of being human.
Exactly. And when they can embrace that,
Their bond becomes even stronger.
they can weather any storm together.
Okay, so we've covered conflict, change, stress. But what about romance? Can two type 1s really have that spark?
It might not be the typical passionate love story you see in movies.
No.
It's more of a quiet intensity.
Interesting.
Because it's built on shared values, intellectual connection that drive to make a difference.
So it's more about deep respect than fireworks.
Exactly. They admire each other, they challenge each other.
And from that,
A different kind of passion emerges.
one that's grounded, I guess.
Yeah. It's about finding someone who sees the world the same way you do.
Who pushes you to be better.
And who shares that commitment to integrity. Personality NFT actually said type 1s can be surprisingly romantic.
Really?
It's just expressed differently. Their love language is more about acts of service.
So instead of a dozen roses,
They might organize their partner's desk
that's so type 1?
or volunteer together. It's about showing love through actions.
Now, I'm not saying it's all sunshine and roses.
Of course not.
We talked about the rigidity, the criticism.
Those challenges are still there.
So how do they make it work?
Communication is key. Being open, being willing to compromise.
In that individual growth piece.
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
need to be self-aware, accept their own flaws and their partners,
It's about creating a safe space
where they can be vulnerable.
to let go of that need for perfection.
Exactly. To just be themselves. And when they can do that,
The connection deepens.
the love grows stronger. Okay, we've covered a lot.
We have communication, conflict, change, romance.
But Personality NFT also mentioned something else.
What's that?
Collaboration.
Two type 1s working together.
It can be incredibly effective.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed that.
I know, right? With all that potential for rigidity.
And those strong opinions.
But when they channel it the right way...
They become a powerhouse.
Exactly. Imagine them on a project. Organized, detail-oriented.
Driven to produce the best work.
No cutting corners. And their shared ethic.
Everything's done with integrity.
Always. They hold themselves to the highest standards.
Pushing each other to be better.
And that direct communication. They can give feedback without sugarcoating.
No passive aggressiveness.
None. They address issues head-on. Of course, there might be conflict,
I bet.
especially when those rigid tendencies pop up.
Like if they disagree on how to do something.
But if they can communicate, compromise.
Those differences can actually become a strength.
Yes, because sometimes the best
These
idea,
come from clashing viewpoints.
it forces you to think differently. So yeah,
This pairing can be pretty amazing.
as long as they remember to bend a little.
To embrace those differences. Hell, this has been fascinating.
It has. We've seen their strengths, their challenges.
Their quirks, their potential for growth.
And one thing's for sure.
What's that?
When two type 1s come together with a shared purpose,
They can make a real difference.
absolutely. So whether you're a type 1 yourself,
Or just curious about relationship.
remember that compatibility is a journey.
It's not about finding the perfect match.
It's about growing together.
Being open to change.
And yeah, bending a little along the way.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.